Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sutton's Days and this week's canning chat. Very excited about this week's canning chat. We have some amazing questions. I do want to encourage you, there'll be a playlist in the iCard above and in the description box below for the playlist of canning chats. I encourage you to go listen to them if you're just joining us, because I've answered a whole bunch of questions and maybe your question is in there, okay? So let's get started because, wow, do we have a lot. Are you ready? So Carrie says, second time. Sorry, Carrie. I'm sorry I missed it the first time. They ask, while one canner full is processing, would it be safe to get the next canner ready and hold those filled jars in my roaster? Inner liner with water, and what temp would be safe to do so? I currently sterilize my jars in the cooker in water, not boiling, but very, very hot. Thanks. Okay, Carrie, so actually that's a very good idea. I've actually used my Instant Pot to keep jars, warm, sterilized while I'm getting them filled for the water bath canner. And I'm assuming that this is all for water bath. So yes, you can absolutely do it in the roaster like that. You want your temperature at 180 degrees, but do not exceed 200 degrees because then the water evaporates and it doesn't allow the jars to become sterilized properly. So you want to keep it at 180 degrees, okay? Keep those jars in there. I think that's a really great idea and very good for, multiple processing sessions. So yes, you can. Megan Perea? Okay. I read on the National Center for Home Food Preservation website that as long as you catch a jar that didn't seal within 24 hours, it's safe to reprocess or stick in the fridge and eat later. Does this recommendation also apply to home canned meat? Yes, it does. Okay. Now, normally you'll know within 12 hours. Normally you'll know probably within 6 hours whether or not they've sealed. The more that you can, the more experienced you are at recognizing any issues. But let's figure 12 hours. So you can them, you wait 12 hours, and you find that one hasn't sealed. You can make the determination at that point whether or not you want to reprocess it or just stick it in the fridge and use it in the next day or two. You want to use that jar within a week, okay? You don't want it, in the fridge hanging out for a long, long time. But absolutely, that is the rule of thumb. I've done it here, no issues. It's all safe. So to answer your question, yes, do that. It's a good thing. Daydream Believer asks, I'm just a newbie, so forgive my question as just plain ignorance. No such thing as a stupid question, okay? If I'm canning jam or anything really, and I have a partial container full at the end, can I just go ahead and process that jar? So Daydream Believer, this is an excellent question, and nobody's asked me this before. And it really is. It's an amazing, very valid question. This happens. And so the answer to your question quite simply is no. Okay? Because the calculations that they do for safe canning are part of that calculation is based on the headspace. The headspace is actually very important to the calculation for canning. So no, you can't. So you can either take it and, if it's meats, just cook it up and do something with it. If it's jams or jellies, just put a lid on it, stick it in the fridge and use it. Vegetables, same deal. Your headspace is very important to that calculation, so you should not just can it with all of the excess headspace. Now, if it's meat and you wanted to add a broth to it to create that headspace, that is perfectly acceptable. I hope this answers your question. Jones Mama says, how critical is it to maintain a constant pressure while canning? I know I can't go below 10 or 11 pounds without starting over, but what about if it creeps up to 13 or 14? I'm having trouble regulating the heat source. Happens more on the electric stove at our weekend home. Just when I think I found the sweet spot, it creeps up again. Please advise. Great question. Electric stoves seem to really present this problem more than any other. It's important to maintain pressure. How's that? Okay. If you are supposed to can at 10 to 11 pounds of pressure and you're canning at 15, you're over processing that for your elevation. Not good, can cause siphoning, really just not something that you want to do. Okay. If your temperature fluctuates a lot, that will cause siphoning and that will be an issue. So you don't want that either. I'm looking at, if you're supposed to can at 11 and you can keep it at 12, creeping up on 13, then that's not too bad. But if you're hitting 14, you're going too high. You're just going too high. So you really want to work to keep that down as close to the pressure as you can. This may require, a lot of constant attention. I want to recommend getting the weighted regulator, and a lot of people refer to it as a jiggler. The issue is I have looked high and low all over the internet for this thing and cannot find it anywhere right now. It's unavailable right now. I will put a link. There actually is a link in my Amazon canning storefront to it, and it's still available. I check on this a couple times a week, waiting for it to become available. The minute that it's available again, you will see me blasting this on our community section page, on my Facebook page, in the Facebook group. I will do it until they're sold out again, okay? I so strongly believe in the jiggler, and I'm so grateful for the subscriber that sent it to me years ago, because it changes everything. It changes everything. Now, this is for a Presto canner. If you have an All-American, then it kind of has that already, and you should be good to go, and maintaining that pressure shouldn't be bad. But to answer your question, yes, you really want to try to be as close to that desired pressure as possible and, and maintain it. Deborah Arrington. Is it okay for water to cover a jar of food you are pressure canning? I ask because sometimes when I put my 2 to 3 inches in my canner, it covers my jars, usually pints. I want you to double check your measurement on the water, okay? If you have your manual, check to see how much they want. I put typically 2 to 3 inches of water in my canner for pressure canning, and it never goes over the top. When it's completely full, it never goes over the top of the jar. So I'm wondering about the measurement of your water. Look at your manual to see what you actually need. Now, to answer your question very simply is no, it's not a problem. It's really not a problem. So if that happens, then it is what it is, and you just, you work it. It won't keep it from canning. It won't prevent anything from canning properly. That is not an issue at all. So if you're doing the right amount of water and you're pressure canning, then you're good to go. Southern Heart asks, I'm a new canner, and every time I have had siphoning, except today when I was canning Ugly Chicken, second time, congratulations. I also forgot to turn down my temperature when I started canning. Do you think this is the reason? Maybe I'm not getting my temp just right. Okay, so one, you said that all your jars sealed, but you want to stop the siphoning, and I totally get that. Now, I will put the disclaimer, siphoning happens. I mean, seriously, it happens. It's not the desired outcome, but it's not catastrophic either. So based on what you're telling me, though, you are not regulating your temperature, okay? You're just turning it on high and letting it go, and that's not the right way to do it. You need to be, and I don't know what pressure you're supposed to be canning at. So without all of that, I can't give you a real detailed answer, but I can tell you that you need to watch your pressure, make sure it stays where it's supposed to be for your altitude, okay, and for the time that you need to do it. And that alone may cause your siphoning issue, hopefully. Connie McCrate says, I live on the Gulf Coast and I'm ready to can lots of meats to stockpile while prices are okay. My question for you is, if I get a big hurricane and knocks out our power, should I worry if the heat goes above 80 degrees in my house, and would it spoil my canned meat? Excellent question, especially for the season that we're entering, okay? So say it knocks out your power, so you don't have air conditioning, and we've talked about this a little bit before. It's not an issue. It's not an issue. It's not the desired storage temperature, but your food is canned, okay? So as long as those jars stay sealed, they are safe. Seriously, it won't spoil for that reason. If the jar's open, then you have an issue. If you get excessive prolonged heat, it may cause some issues with the seal, but I've run across literally nobody that has run into that. But 80 degrees shouldn't be bad. Keep it dark, keep it as cool as you can. Don't mess with them too much during that time period, if you lose power and it's hot. But your jars are safe and the food inside of them are safe. So, but it's a really great question, especially with the onset of hurricane season. Lori A, do you boil your canned goods when opening to use as a precaution? Never have I done that. Never would I do that. Now, apparently, I've learned from different subscribers that the reason that this has ever been suggested is that there are certain fractions of the world that don't pressure can or don't pressure can properly or have no choice but to water bath can. And so, you know, they do what they can and and then when they pull it out, they boil it, you know, they boil it up at a certain temperature to make sure they've killed off anything. A, I don't even know if that's safe, okay? B, if you have properly pressure canned your food, there's absolutely no need for this at all. Trust the process, okay? Do it the way you're supposed to do it. Store it the way you're supposed to store it, or to the best of your ability. And that food is 100% safe. Absolutely. The issue that some people have run into is, say, you know, Uncle Joe gives them some canned meat of some kind, you know, and they're just not sure that Joe's canning it the way that he should be. You know, maybe do it then. But again, I don't know that that is safe. I don't know that that then makes it safe. So honestly, if you don't trust the food, when in doubt, throw it out. Otherwise, crack that jar and enjoy it, because that is the whole reason that you are canning this food, is so that you have shelf-stable, good quality food. So no, not going to do it. Don't do it. Don't recommend doing it. Danelle Cullen bought a Baltec water bath canner. Congrats. Can I double stack like in regular water bath canners? Also, can I use another bottom rack in this canner, as I don't like the flimsy rack that comes in the canner? Two questions. Okay, so can you double stack? From everything I've heard, absolutely. It is exactly like a water bath canner, except that it is electric. So as long as you can get that inch of water over the top of the top jars, you're good to go. Okay, so that's question number one. Replacing the rack. I honestly don't know. I don't own this canner. I'm probably not going to hit my list, but I don't see why you couldn't. But just to be safe, you might try reaching out to Ball. But if anybody has a suggestion, if you use a different rack than what they give you, definitely throw it down below. I honestly do not see why you couldn't. So as long as it's a metal rack going in a metal pot, you're good to go. Okay, but definitely use the rack on the bottom. Deborah Erickson, have you canned chopped garlic? No, I haven't. Now, to the best of my knowledge, the only way to preserve garlic is in honey or to pickle it. Or to hang it dry. You're good there. I don't know of a way to can garlic. In a few recipe books, I've seen garlic broth canned. It's a vegetable broth. I don't see why you couldn't do that. But canning the garlic itself, no, I haven't. And I have not found a way to do it that would work for us. So, no. Freezing it works too, though. Ouija. Hey, Ouija. Ouija says, am I crazy to toss out all of the food in jars when pressure canning and a jar breaks? My thoughts are that shards of glass could enter the unsealed jars before they seal. Okay, Ouija, if I'm reading this right, you're talking about tossing out every single jar that's in that canning session and the food. No, you do not need to do that. You do not need to do that. Now, the food that's in the broken jar, absolutely make it gone, because that most likely will have some kind of glass in it. Why risk it? Okay. But the rest of the jars, they are safe. So no, you don't have to throw those out. My goodness, don't waste that money. Don't. So those, if they sealed, they're safe, they're good. Rock on, you're good to go. Thanks, Ouija. Good question. Henry Cook says, you answered a question from C to yourself. They said a jar of pork butt did not seal. It smelled like vinegar, tasted funny. To me, it sounds more like flat sour. Could you discuss flat sour and ways to avoid it? Absolutely. I will also link a video that I did a while back on flat sour, specific to flat sour. But the real cursory overlook is, from what I gathered, it wasn't flat sour. Flat sour doesn't necessarily taste vinegary. It tastes flat and sour. I don't know. But reasons, the number one reason that causes flat sour is that the jars and the contents are not allowed to cool properly. So say it's 11 o'clock at night, you just finished that canner session, you were able to turn off the heat, and oh my gosh, you are exhausted, you need to go to bed. Do you have to wait until the jar or the canner completely depressurizes and empty all the jars in order to, pull the jars out and then go to bed? Yes. It's not the ideal answer. We're not always going to get the answers we want, right? But so that's why I strongly encourage you to schedule yourself when you're canning. The thing is, if you leave them in overnight, then it takes longer for them to cool off. Now, I'll get comments down below that say that I've always done that. I've always done it. I know a lot of people have always done a lot of things. So, but this is what can cause flat sour, okay? If you leave the jars in the closed canner overnight and then take them out the next morning, they have cooled at a much slower rate than what they were supposed to. If you pull all the jars out and put them too close together and cover them with a towel like grandma or mom used to do, then you're letting them cool off at a much slower rate than they are supposed to, and it can cause flat sour. Now, flat sour happens, but not very often, okay? And it happens with conditions like that. That's pretty much the major reason that you would get flat sour. Why did people used to throw towels over their jars when they were canning? Because the house was much cooler, or there was a breeze coming through a window. In that case, yeah, throw a dish towel over the top, and because it'll fluctuate itself, just right with that breeze coming through. But most of the time, you don't need anything like that. It's not necessary. So that's what causes flat sour. It can happen with literally anything that you can, pressure can, meats, vegetables, anything like that. And you'll notice, you'll taste it and go, ooh, something's just not right. That's flat sour. But check out the link below. I discuss it a lot more in depth. Great question. Nan Russell says, this is the second time asking about canned dog food. I'm sorry, Nan. Okay. But now I have a more specific question. Oh, I don't think, okay. I make dog food in the Instant Pot using boneless, skinless chicken thighs, chopped sweet potatoes, and kale. Then I shred the chicken and store the stew in the refrigerator. Could I pressure can this combination? And could I use raw chicken? Could I add liquid to the jars? I would add egg, fat, and anything else to it when you open the jar. Nan Russell, I think that's an excellent idea. A lot of people are going to creating their own dog food because of the stuff that were being sold, So yes, the chicken thighs and the sweet potatoes and the kale, they can absolutely all be canned. You can definitely use raw chicken. You'll have to figure out your measurements. You can use raw everything. You can figure out your measurements from there. You can add liquid. There's absolutely no problem with that. And you left out everything that is not approved for canning, so then it's safe for the dog too. Can it up. Can it up for chicken time. That's the time that's the longest. So if you're doing pints, 75 minutes. And have fun. Your dog will love you for a very long time for that. Nevela Stone, could you please go more in depth on siphoning and its causes? I'm very new to pressure canning and still a little nervous. Okay, Nevela, take a deep breath. It's more dangerous to get in your car and go to work every day, okay? So as long as you trust the process, follow the rules, you are going to be fine. Siphoning happens because of temperature fluctuations while you're canning, because of improper headspace. I'd say those are the two really big things right there, okay? So as long as your headspace is correct, you've got, the proper headspace for what you're canning, and as long as your temperature while you're canning does not fluctuate a lot, meaning you don't go from 11 to 15 down to 12, back to 15, down to 11, all in one canning session, then you're fine. And when you always, when you're done and the safety lock goes down and everything's down to zero, naturally depressurizing, okay, let it sit for another 5 to 10 minutes. If you open that canner immediately and pull it out, there's a significant temperature fluctuation there, and that can cause siphoning then, after the whole process, So always wait 5 to 10 minutes before you take the lid of the pressure canner off. That makes a really big difference. Oh my gosh, you guys, is this, yes, that's all of them. No way. Okay, so great questions this week. I really appreciate you guys sending them in. It helps a lot. I mean, these are questions that I won't think of by myself, so I need you to spur the information on for me and for other people. Be sure to check out the playlist for all the other canning chats if you're just joining us or if you missed a few. There's lots of information in there, lots of really great questions. Remember, if you have asked a question and I have not answered it, to put second time in the question when you put it in the comments here. And remember that if I say to check back next week, that your question is going to be answered, so that you know to check in the next week for your answer. If it's a time sensitive question, please email me the question, and I'll get it more quickly. Okay. And put it in the email address that I have down below in the description box. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm trying to find a way to get rid of this weird color. It's no matter if I'm facing an open window right now or the monitor. I'm sorry, you guys. It's just the tint they put on my glasses. It's going to drive me crazy. So until next time, remember, if you like what we do here, please hit that like, subscribe, and share. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Do I talk too fast? And be safe. Bye.